Why don't people take Genesis chapter 2, verse 24 to have a literal meaning? I'm going to read Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. Genesis chapter 2, verse 24 reads, "That is why a man will leave his father and his mother, and he will stick to his wife, and they will become one flesh." So it's saying that a man who's going to get married, because it speaks about his wife. It speaks about how a man is going to leave his father and mother and stick to his wife. Now, if someone takes that literally, that would mean when every man that got married had literally got stuck to their wife. And not only did they get stuck to their wife, it says, and they will become one flesh. Which would mean what if you take that literally? That would mean that there will be a whole bunch of people on earth who, all the married people you see on earth, would be literally stuck on their wife's flesh, and they would become or be one flesh. So, have you ever seen any married person glued, literally, physically, to their wife, and they are one literal flesh? Does that make any kind of sense? Now, why don't people believe this? Because no one has never, ever seen anyone, any husband that's glued physically to their wife and literally are one flesh, walking together all the time 100%. People don't take this literally when they read it, because they know that it's referring to being yoked together under the power of God. It's not referring to the physical meaning or fleshly meaning of being one in one flesh, as if a husband and wife are glued literally together. It's a spiritual meaning behind this. And most of, like 99% of people get this. However, when it comes to other things said in the Bible, like when Jesus says, "Me and the Father are one," or when they say the mark of the beast, which is 666, they take that to have a literal meaning, without even considering, just like Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, without even considering that it might have a spiritual meaning behind the explanation of it. They don't even consider that. However, they automatically consider at Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, they automatically consider that's a spiritual meaning, because it wouldn't make sense to believe that, because no one sees that. No one sees every husband physically glued to their wife being literally one body, one flesh, literally. It will make no sense. So this is just a taste example of how people choose what they're going to examine to be spiritual or to have a spiritual meaning, and other things they just don't even give it a second thought to think that it might have a spiritual meaning behind it. And First Corinthians chapter 2, verse 15 says, however, a spiritual man examines all things. So if you want to be a spiritual person, you're going to examine all of the information. All of it. Because if you don't examine all the information about the subjects you are reading, you're going to be like a physical man, not a spiritual man. You're going to be a physical man that thinks only the physical way. And at 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14, the Bible actually describes how physically thinking persons are going to respond to God's word. At 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14, it says, but a physical, let me say that again so people can have time to get to it. That's 1 Corinthians, which is in the New Testament, chapter 2, verse 14, which says, but a physical man does not accept the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness to him, and he cannot get to know them because they are examined spiritually. So it's very clear here. If you're not examining all the information and you're not examining the information from a spiritual perspective also, then you're not going to agree with the truth. You're not going to get it. It's going to seem to be foolishness. The truth of God's word is going to be foolish to someone that is a physical man, because they block themselves from seeing it by not examining it spiritually and humbly examining all of the information. Some people are glued to believe certain beliefs without giving it a second thought. A good example of this is there was a serial killer, and he was caught and exposed and identified as being an evil man. I mean, this guy killed a lot of people, a lot of bodies. However, after he was locked up and the news got a hold of his picture and things like that, and they showed the different crime scenes and all that stuff, the man's mother ignored all the video evidence and DNA evidence and witness evidence and camera evidence and even picture evidence. She ignored all these facts and said in her heart she knows and feels and believes her son is innocent and good. This lady refused to examine all the facts. This lady chose to reject not only examining them, but understanding all of the facts so that she could stay blinded from the truth. Because the truth is not in harmony with what she wanted to believe. So some people are like that. They don't want to hear the facts. They don't want to examine the evidence. They don't want to put the pieces of the puzzle together to see the clear picture. They don't want to do that because that clear picture goes against what they want or what they may want to believe, more than likely. They may want to believe it. They may have heard something from their father about this point, or mother, grandfather, or even pastor, or things like that. And when someone says something that goes against what someone they look up to have said, some people do that. They say, "Oh no, I don't want to hear it." They say stuff like, "Don't confuse me with facts, because in my heart I know and feel I'm right," or "This teaching is true." So what does the Bible point out about people like that? It points out that people like that are physical people, physical men who don't, physical thinkers. They don't examine nothing spiritually. They don't examine all of the evidence. And so the truth looks foolish to them.